Tonight, we step quietly into the warm summer of 1518. Imagine yourself in the early morning stillness of Strasbourg, a city nestled near the Rhine River, in what is now eastern France. The cobbled streets are hushed, the wooden shutters creak gently in the breeze, and the scent of baking rye lingers from the kitchens that dot the alleyways. Life moves slowly here, as it always has, until one morning, something changes. Strange things happen. A woman steps into the light. Her name is Frau Trafia. She begins to dance, not with music, not with joy, just movement. At first, no one interferes. It seems harmless enough, a bit strange, perhaps, but in a town used to superstition and suffering, and yet, she does not stop, and no clear end. Hour after hour, her feet continue to move. By sunset, she is still dancing, and by the week's end, she will no longer be alone. This is the tale of the dancing plague. A moment in time when an entire city seemed to fall under a gentle but terrible spell, a dance with no beginning. It began quietly, in late July of the year 1518. The town of Strasbourg, though modest in size, was no stranger to illness, hunger, or spiritual dread. But even in such a place, the sight of a woman dancing alone, without sound or partner, drew quiet attention. But on that morning, something overtook her. Frau Trafia, whose name has endured through centuries of whisper, was not known for theatrics. She was, in most accounts, unremarkable. A shuffle of feet, a sway of the arms. She did not speak. She did not smile. She danced slowly at first. Hours passed. Then days. A tailor's wife, a baker's son, a man from the docks, all dancing wordlessly, without joy, as if something deep within had overridden the will to rest. She slept little, ate less. Her body began to falter, but she did not stop. And then others joined her. It started with a handful, but no one, not yet, dared step in to stop it. By the end of the first week, over 30 townspeople had joined in. Their steps marked the stones of the square. Their breath grew ragged, but still they danced. And the city, puzzled, anxious, and weary, watched it unfold in silence. Some whispered that it was a punishment. Others feared it was a sickness. Because how do you stop a dance that seems to come from nowhere and touches so many? As the summer sun lingered longer over Strasbourg, the dances multiplied. What began with one woman became a slow, spreading ripple across the town. Dozens, then hundreds, drawn into the same rhythmless trance. What could possess so many to move this way, day after day, as though their bodies no longer belonged to them? Young and old, rich and poor, all caught in an invisible current, their bodies swaying, trembling. The local council, men of law, trade, and superstition, gathered in dimly lit chambers to debate. The council cleared public spaces. They built a wooden stage. They hired musicians to provide rhythm. Drummers, pipers, even fiddlers were summoned, not to entertain, but to guide the afflicted through their strange ordeal. The clergy suspected sin. The physicians suspected heat and humors. The townspeople whispered about curses and spirits. And then, the strangest decision was made, believing that this compulsion to dance needed to be worked out of people who, worn thin by hunger, fever, and endless motion, quietly faded, even as their feet continued to move. Imagine that. A town overtaken by dancing, now furnished with a platform and a soundtrack. It was hoped, gently, foolishly, that the dancers might tire, and eventually rest. Others fell and did not rise, but the music only fed the madness. The tempo quickened. The crowds thickened. Some danced until their legs gave out. Some collapsed and rose again, as if urged by forces unseen. In journals and city records, there are mentions of death by dancing. The people of Strasbourg could only watch and wonder, why couldn't they stop? What force had unspooled itself through the streets, so quietly, and with such devastating calm? And more importantly, where would it lead next? Centuries have passed since the streets of Strasbourg echoed with the soundless rhythm of weary feet, but the mystery lingers, a question suspended in time. What truly happened that summer? Historians, physicians, and scientists have all tried to trace the root of the plague. Their theories are many, though none complete. Ergot is a fungus that grows on damp rye grain, common in medieval bread. For hundreds of people to suffer the exact same effects at the same time, with such rhythmic uniformity, it seems unlikely. Ergot poisoning affects the nervous system, not the imagination. When consumed, it can cause vivid hallucinations, muscle spasms, and convulsions. It twists the body with symptoms disturbingly similar to those seen in Strasbourg. One of the most enduring explanations is ergot poisoning, but the theory falls short. Others suggest it was a form of mass psychogenic illness, once called hysteria. Life in the early 1500s was bleak. Famine, disease, and social strain weighed heavily on the people. Perhaps they find expression together in the same haunting ritual of motion. It is possible that the mind, worn thin by fear and stress, cracked open in strange and collective ways. The body reflects the burdens it carries, and if enough minds break in tandem. There's also the belief in religious punishment. At the time, many feared the wrath of Saint Vitus, a figure known for cursing sinners with uncontrollable dancing. Shrines were built in his name. Pilgrimages were made. Some of the afflicted even begged for forgiveness between trembling steps. Perhaps they believed they had been cursed. Perhaps belief itself became the plague. And yet, none of these explanations fully satisfy. The symptoms were too specific, the pattern too coordinated, the outcome too tragic. There are no drawings, no surviving music, only entries in town, ledgers, and chronicles, cold and restrained, quietly recording a summer where joy turned to dread. When the rhythm faded, it left behind only silence and questions. So we wonder, could it have been the bread, the pressure of a world teetering on the edge of collapse? Or was it something else? Something older than science, deeper than faith, waiting patiently, just beneath the surface. Imagine, if you will, a city in quiet crisis. Streets not filled with battle or fire, but with the soft thuds of feet against stone. A strange procession of bodies, moving without purpose, without end. A plague, not of boils, nor fever, but of motion. Public spaces were cleared, and musicians were summoned. Flute players, drummers, pipers, hired by the city, not to heal, but to accompany. Trying to restore order, turned not to confinement or isolation, but to music. Some succumbed. Others stumbled in and out of consciousness, still swaying, even in sleep. And then, consider the city's response. The authorities of Strasbourg, they believed the dancers could not stop until the compulsion had been exhausted. So rather than prevent the dancing, they encouraged it. A platform was built. The dancers moved to rhythms they could neither hear nor resist. A plague without pathogen, day after day. But a stage, though well-intended, had the opposite effect. The dancing did not dwindle. It's this strange approach, from a shaded window, as a neighbor twirls beneath the sun, eyes vacant, the records remain. Simple notations in city books, taxed entries, and witnessed accounts. They confirm what sounds like fiction, what feels like dream. Lips whispering prayers to no one. Behind her, a drummer keeps time, not for entertainment, but for release. More collapsed. The line between treatment and torment blurred. When it became too much, the authorities reversed course. The musicians were dismissed. The dancing platforms dismantled. The afflicted were taken gently, quietly, to a shrine in the Vosges mountains, to pray to Saint Vitus for deliverance. What the city had created was not a solution, the faintest trace of something we still cannot name. Imagined watching, yet no release ever came. Did not. Eventually, the city returned to stillness. The music stopped, but the memory, even today, a festival of frenzy. And somewhere within it all, why couldn't they stop? A mystery that still haunts us now. Imagine the silence after the musicians have gone. The dancers lie still, some resting, some forever quiet. The streets of Strasbourg return to their ordinary rhythm. But beneath that quiet lingers a question. Why couldn't they stop? What seized these people so completely? Did they dance through pain, through fatigue, through death? We are left only with theories, soft-spoken attempts to explain what the records cannot. Some say it was the rye bread, that a mold, invisible to the eye, seeped into the body, they say. Something that moved through the crowd like smoke, unseen, but felt. There are the whispers, an entire population gripped by fear, of famine, of plague, of sin. Fear so strong it took form in movement, a kind of trembling that spread through the body, from person to person, until no one remembered how it began, warping it from within. Something real, something strange, and something that, to this day, we have never fully understood, aren't so sure. The past doesn't explain itself. It only invites us to wonder, a scientific explanation, rational, measured. The dance continued. But others, mass hysteria. And then, that it was something older, something seen dancing at the edge of firelight. A spirit, perhaps, or a punishment. Some stories claim that even after the dancers fell, their hands twitched, their feet still moved. That behind their still eyes, we cannot know for sure. What we do know is this. Something happened in Strasbourg, because sometimes, and as you close your eyes tonight and drift towards sleep, perhaps you'll hear the faint rhythm of footsteps echoing through time. A gentle farewell and quiet invitation. So now, the music has faded. The dancers of Strasbourg are long gone. Their footsteps, once frantic, are now only shadows pressed into old cobblestone. The records are yellowed, the words faint, something they feared, or something. A crowd without joy, but it always offers stories. And the story of the dancing plague is one we return to. Not for certainty. Perhaps your breath will slow, like a city returning to stillness. And where, somehow, that makes it easier to fall asleep. But for that gentle haunting, it leaves behind, without reason. Let it drift through time. They felt, if you'd like, or let the playlist carry you to the next tale. A need to move, to release, to escape. But the question remains, why did they dance? Was it something they consumed? In the quiet hours of the night, we might wonder if the human mind, stretched by hardship, sometimes, due its mysteries, by sorrow, by mystery, sometimes finds expression in ways we cannot predict. A dance without music. History does not always offer answers. As you rest now, strange truths and soft-spoken stories waiting to be discovered, each one designed to carry you gently into sleep. And if your mind drifts to a place where the world made less sense, if you've enjoyed this quiet journey through history, we invite you to join us again. Our channel is full of forgotten moments, so subscribe, because history never sleeps, and neither